Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management? This segment is about those who served. It might not be you, but it might be somebody you know and love. When veterans separate from the armed services, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs provides numerous benefits. However, for veterans managing the transition, retaining the full extent of their earned military benefits can be difficult, and many veterans miss out on vital care. We're going to talk about this with two Annex Wealth Management teammates who have real-life experience with the armed forces. Brandon Lehman is here, Director of Branch Development, CFP, and a Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Danny.
Brandon, your connection with the military is?
Back in now for 7 years, currently serving in the Army Guard, doing in the Engineer Corps.
Also with us, Kent Halleen, Associate Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management. First time on the show. Kent, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And you represent the United States Marine Corps. Tell us a little bit about your service.
I enlisted in 2011, went through boot camp and School of Infantry, and I've been a rifleman or leading rifleman since then, and I've definitely met some amazing people.
We're going to focus this discussion on disability benefits, which can be a complex process. Veterans need to have a current illness or injury, known as a condition, that affects their mind or body, and to have served in active duty for training, or inactive duty training. Brandon, how much confusion is there?
Well, it's funny you say that, because the part you just went over, all those different types of trainings, is just confusing enough for those of us that have been in long enough. But in honesty, as one who has a disability rating personally, 2022 survey that showed that of the 1,000 veterans, 48% of them did not currently understand the disability benefits and how to get them. And actually, 4 out of 10 struggled to even get adequate education when they left the service. And again, I can vouch for that, because when you leave or when we go through these outbriefs, there's just so much complexity there, and trying to wrap your hands around it, your head around it, can be incredibly difficult.
And that's a darn shame. Ken, there's some key conditions that need to be met. What are they?
One, you have to have either gotten sick or injured while serving in the military. Another one that has to be met out of the 3, you had an illness or injury before you joined the military and serving made it worse. Or third, you have a disability related to your active duty service that didn't appear until after you ended your service. So examples of that would be pretty common things like tinnitus, general hearing loss, and then you see a lot of joint pain, cervical pain.
I've got to imagine both of you guys have ringing ears, don't you?
Always.
I have. It's never gone away.
Yeah. One benefit veterans with disabilities need to know is in regard to housing. How's that work, guys?
Not to get too in-depth here, because there's a lot of research online and a lot of tools that the VA can give you, but there's 2 really important things. The first is the specially adaptive housing for those who can qualify, can be up to a $109,000 grant to help them modify their home. The other side of it is the special home adaptation grant, which isn't as much, widens the net a little bit and who can qualify for it. But again, that's $22,000 up to, that can help them modify, make living conditions a little bit more beneficial for them after they've gotten out of the service. And that's key, because sometimes we just need it, sometimes wheelchairs, crutches, canes, those different things. So it's really important.
When you're in a chair, you would need special automobile equipment, and there's a grant for that as well.
So really what you're looking at here is those that are probably in a wheelchair, those are the disabled that need some sort of assistance with a vehicle, but still want to have their mobility. And that's what's key. I do have family members who qualify for that, and they still want to have that ability to feel like they have freedom. So you can work with the VA, and you can get special qualifications that allow you to modify the vehicle, lift the vehicle, do those types of things, so you don't feel like your freedom of mobility is 100% taken away.
Brandon Lehman, Director of Branch Development, CFP, and a Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management, also a company commander in the Army Guard. Kent Halleen is an Associate Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management, a platoon sergeant with 12 years of service in the Selective Marine Corps Reserve. We're covering veteran disability benefits and offering some guidance on potentially complex topics. Kent, what can you tell us about a clothing allowance for veterans? How would they need that with disability?
Some disabilities and injuries require either a medicine that has to be applied to the skin, or prosthetic, or something that would be beneficial to the person with that clothing. What this really focuses on is damage to clothing or replacing that clothing, depending if that medicine damages it or has some chemical properties that is going to cause you to replace that clothing. So this gives you an allowance each year to be able to replace that clothing and kind of cut out on some of that frustration after an injury.
One we often hear about is educational benefits and employee readiness. I think that's really where we do okay as a nation for our veterans.
I would say that we do a really good job educating that. You look at the briefs that we have while we're in service, the folks come to us, they talk to us about the opportunities. But I think something that is underutilized is just looking for and help getting ready to get out in the field. So the veteran readiness and employment programs are there to help you get set up when you leave your active duty service, and taking advantage of that is incredibly important.
And then finally, let's talk about temporary disability rating increases. What does that mean?
Yeah, so there's a situation where maybe you're going to be going in for surgery and it's going to be a couple weeks. You can get a rating that'll give you basically 100% of disability for that time being, and then it drops back down because after that, theoretically, you'll be back to normal after you get that care. It's a unique thing. I'd never heard of it until right now.
I mean, neither did I.
It's an amazing benefit, but I think the key to all this, when you look at the disability side, and I tell this to all my soldiers day in and day out, especially the ones that are, as we call ETS, they're ending their service obligation, is, look, you need to document. If you don't document, it never happened. Same with compliance in the field that we're in with financial services industry, right? If you didn't document it, it never happened. So pushing soldiers, pushing young Marines, as Ken is used to dealing with, to document everything is the utmost importance.
Brandon just came back from drill, so his hair is good. I don't know about you.
That's next weekend.
That's next weekend, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Brandon Lehman, Director of Branch Development, CFP, and a Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management. Thanks for joining us.
Danny.
Ken Halleen, Associate Wealth Manager at Annex Wealth Management. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danny.